All right, so today we are talking about your relationship as usual, but we're specifically talking about what happens when your partner does questionable things. You know that you've got your own baggage, your own unresolved trauma, and that you're definitely bringing in unhealthy patterns into your relationship. But what about your partner who um, maybe responds and shuts down and pulls away, or maybe even says some hurtful things when you're needing them the most? Is that a case of, oh, well, my partner is unhealthy for me, or this relationship is toxic? Or are they really, deeply loving and supportive of you, but getting the shit triggered out of them because of your triggers? Um, And when I say that, I don't want you to get into a loop of being like, well, did they trigger me first or did I trigger them first? Like, you won't figure that out. So let's just put that question aside and just acknowledge that you're both getting triggered in the relationship. So something important to know about this whole thing is that as human beings with nervous systems, we co-regulate. If you're a mom, you may notice that when you're calm and you're cool and regulated in your nervous system, your child is much more likely to be calm, cool, and regulated. If you're stressed, you're angry, you're having a fit, your child is probably going to throw a tantrum. They are co-regulating with you. You're calm, they're calm. You're freaking out, they're freaking out. This is just like, it's just human basic neuroscience. So the same thing happens in all of our relationships. If you're highly stressed, highly reactive, you're going to cause a reaction in your partner as well. So picture that your partner and you are taking a hike in the mountains, and it's going really well, it's going really good. And all of a sudden, you see a bear, and you see this bear first, and you start freaking out. You are like, oh my gosh, there's a bear. We got to do something about it. And you instinctively want to run away. This is your flight response that you might experience daily in your relationship. At the first sign of conflict, you want to run away. Your partner, now in witnessing your survival response and the bear, shuts down. They freeze up. You're like, come on, let's go. We gotta run away. This bear is gonna eat us. And your partner is like frozen. Okay. And this might be like in your relationship, you're having an argument and you like really want to resolve it. And you're like, what's wrong? Why won't you talk? Why won't you tell me what's going on? And you're saying this to your partner, and they're not talking, they're shutting down, they're not giving you what you need, and you're upset and you really need them, but they are frozen. They are also in a survival response. And this is where relationships go so wrong in their communication all of the time, where so many women dismiss their partners for not being supportive, for not being good for them, and actually dismissing the fact that their partner is also having trauma triggers in the moment. And I used to do this too. I used to want to resolve disagreements like right then and there. I'm like, come on, let's talk about it. And I'd push and push and push. And all that would do is push Aaron away further, make him pull away, need more time, need more space to process what was going on with us. Because my fight response was triggering a freeze response in him. It didn't mean that he didn't care. He was actually really sad. He was actually really like, his heart hurt from having this distance between us. And this is us in the past, because today this doesn't happen with us anymore. But he's like he's going more and more into freeze, and I'm going more and more into fight. And so when you're like doing anything with your partner and you're having any situation with your partner and you react in one sort of way, like a survival response, you can't, unless your relationship is completely evolved to the point where you both have done your work, or at least you have done your work, and that's helped them regulate their nervous system. You can't expect your partner to be calm and open and completely undefensive when you're in a fight response, or when you're in a flight response, or you're in a freeze response. They're naturally going to have another survival response as well. It might also be fight, and that, that's what causes like these arguments back and forth where you're both fighting. So while you can't expect that, it is possible that if you rewire your nervous system, that even though you've had this whole history with your partner of reacting to each other and unhealthy communication and right, like regretting things, you're both regretting things you're saying, you can shift that because we do co-regulate, and that's like there's a frustrating side to that, and then there's a good side. So if you were to rewire your nervous system and expand your window of tolerance, if you're not sure what the window of tolerance is, write that in the comments, because I have a really good graphic for you to see. And now you're like mostly calm, regulated, and cool, even in the face of conflict. Your partner will adapt to that. It's quite beautiful. Like, even if they still need to do their own trauma work and they're foundationally not an asshole, not narcissistic, and not abusive to you, then you can take the steps to rewire your nervous system, and they will adapt. So, okay, I see your comment, Jessica. I will tag you in that. So they will adapt. And I know this is the question that comes up, but are they abusive? Are they unhealthy? They've said some questionable things. They've done some questionable things. Well, you also have to ask yourself, like, was that, did I do the same thing, right? Like, if they said something mean to you, are you saying mean things to them? And that doesn't, like, I don't think it's right for this to happen at all. But you also have to look at yourself, look at your patterns in relationships. If you're in yelling matches with your partner, is this the first time that that's happened? Or do you experience that? Have you experienced that in all your life back to your childhood? If you're being really mean to them, I don't think they should be mean to you. But if they're having a fight response and it's kind of automatic and they're getting triggered, and they've said some questionable things, yeah, they should definitely not do that. You should definitely not do that either. And at least one of you has to rewire in order to shift that. A former client of mine, Bridgette, her dominant nervous system response was to freeze. Now, she grew up in a home where her parents were abusive. And so she constantly witnessed her dad being abusive towards her mom. And even though she was with a loving husband today, she still is. When we started working together in Let Love In, they were completely disconnected. She had put up a wall. Anytime it was time to talk about something more serious or just get closer together, she would freeze up. She would be scared that he would become abusive, just like her dad was, even though he never did. And she came into the program questioning his commitment and love to her, and like, okay, well, we're not really communicating well. This has happened for so many clients. Another former client of Let Love In, Kristen, she was like, my husband is not supportive of me. I'm ready to leave. And it turned out she was totally freezing up and not speaking up whenever she needed to, whenever she needed her voice to be heard or to set some boundaries. And this made him pull away. This made him freeze as well. And it also made him more aggressive. And like, again, you might relate to that. When your partner freezes up, you might be like more aggressive and trying to get some answers. My fiance now says when we get in an argument that he is only matching my energy. Yeah, and that's definitely possible. Like, I mean, that's now a question of discerning, okay, here's where we're gonna really distinguish this in the workshop tonight. Is your partner gaslighting you by saying that, Or is that really true? And they've been trying to love you and support you and talk to you and navigate through whatever difficulties are coming up. And now at this point, they're really burnt out. They're just as defensive as you have been, and they really are matching your energy. Or do you feel like you actually really have been open? You really have been communicating more openly? And I'm not just talking verbally, like your body language has to be open and non-defensive as well. That's why I'm moving my body here. And you've been doing all of that, like really softening. And yet they're somehow projecting it all on you like it's your fault. Okay, so that's the difference. Yeah, and if you're not sure anymore, like if you've been together for so long where you're like, I don't even know anymore, I'm not even sure where this started, I don't know who started what, then you're probably way in your head. And I do encourage you to come to the workshop tonight, because we're going to be figuring out and getting some of this clarity in movement. And really getting the answers from our bodies instead of mind, because the mind, when we've experienced trauma, is so good at filtering out the truth, because, and your nervous system is just so afraid of getting hurt again that it will make up stories. It will make up, red flags that aren't really there. And people will be like, oh, just trust your intuition. But you're not connected to your intuition when you have trauma. You have an overreactive nervous system that like any little tiny thing will trigger you into oh my God, I shouldn't be with this person. So yeah, okay, yeah. So yeah, the biggest issue, not just for you, Sierra, is staying in your head. This is like such a global issue, especially when we've experienced trauma, because you experience trauma, whether physical or purely emotional, through the vehicle, like through the vessel of your body. Your body was there through the whole trauma. You felt these emotions in your body. We store trauma in our bodies because that higher functioning part of our brains shut off. And so you've got all this trauma stored there. It's normal and natural for you to be disconnected from your body and only be in your head. It's actually a very smart defense mechanism. For one, not feeling any emotions, like truly in your body, and not accessing the trauma, which does reside in your body. Hey, Rachel, I see your comments. I'm going to see if I can get to them, because now I'm losing my train of thought. You know what? I'm just going to read that. I'm just going to read your comment and meet you here. Super destructive and defensive and reactive. And he has responded with fight and criticism. And now he is poised to fight. So he is protecting himself as well. Yeah, it sounds like I need some clarity. Looking forward to tonight. I'm looking forward to seeing you tonight, Rachel. Yeah, and it, like I said, it can get real muddy after a while. But back to Bridgette, who did the Let Love In program. She released this, she released a lot of trauma, but specifically a memory of literally standing between her mom and dad when her dad had a gun in his hand, and she was the one who like stood between them. And I mean, like, think about what that does to a child, right? So of course you're going to bring that into your relationship when it has been unresolved. And she totally blocked out that memory until we started moving together in the program. And it was like, once she released that and became free of that, I was like, what? She had been in talk therapy for so many years and that never came up. She was finally able to she totally approached her husband differently. Like, she approached him, she initiated contact, emotional contact, physical contact with him. And here's the thing, he was like, and if you want to see her testimonial video, let me know, I'll link that to you. But she says this in the video where I interview her. I think there's an unedited version, there's an edited version. So in one of the versions, she's like, it's like he was very surprised. He did not know this woman. And that's what happens. Like, if you enter a process where you're rewiring and now all of a sudden you are this new evolved human, not even woman, just human, who is calm, cool, and regulated, and now you approach your partner completely differently, they're going to be scared. They're going to be like, okay, like you're calm now, but when are you going to flip out again? That's what Corey said too, who also is a Let Love In alumni. She right after the program, we talked, and she's like, my kids, my husband, they're still expecting me to freak out. They're still to flip out. They're still expecting me to get angry. Like, when do they finally get on board? I've changed. And I said, hey, you have had 3 months in this program to adapt, to grieve that part of you, that like inner child part of you that has been so protective and angry and sad. And you've released what she called like this inner bear. You've had time to do that. You've had time to feel through that and adapt. Now you have to give your kids and your partner time to do the same. And she's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, even as you're rewiring, your partner can still really, if you've been in this unhealthy pattern for a long time, they can still expect you to really, still flip out, lose your shit. Okay, she's calm now, but when is the bear gonna come out? And so even if you're in this unhealthy pattern now, you can you can transform your entire relationship, even if it's just you rewiring your nervous system. So yeah, like back to Bridgette, she started talking to him, with more calm. We actually came up, personally for her, like, she's like, I feel more calm if there's, the kitchen island between us. And I was like, great, let's use that. And they started talking about things again. They started navigating their conversations much more easily. He stopped pulling away. He stopped expecting her to just block him out. And she calls her relationship easy now. And as connected as they were before having kids, where like that's where a whole shift happened. They had kids and their relationship became really hard. That's where all the trauma came back, which is actually really common. When you do something like having kids and you give birth and you like have no choice but to be connected to your body again, a lot of trauma resurfaces. We do find that to be the turning point or the breaking point, or the client's realization that, oh, that was the breaking point when I had kids. All my trauma resurfaced. I couldn't avoid it anymore. And now they have an amazing relationship. And so I want you to know it's possible for you to have that too, even if you are stuck in an unhealthy pattern. I want you to refrain from blaming your partner or like fixating on, is it them? Is it them? With Aaron, I felt so betrayed in the beginning of our relationship for so many reasons because of my past trauma. But, he had lied to me about a few things. I shared yesterday in a video, like we have some shit around him smoking cigarettes. And I was like, acted like I was the most betrayed person in the entire world. And how could he can't do this? And was being very controlling and not understanding. And he hid it from me when he picked up the habit again. And, I was like, why does everyone lie to me? Like, why do people always lie? And I was like, okay, like, wait, stop. I'm happening to be in these relationships where people are giving, like my partners are giving me these white lies. What am I doing? I'm acting like if you don't tell me 100% the truth, I'm going to leave you. I'm going to feel extremely wounded by you. And so that was the message I was always giving in my relationships. So, you're 100% responsible for your partner's, responses as they are to you. Yeah. I'm just checking in with the comments here. Whitney, I think that's a great question. I think it's a whole another video. So I'll write down your question and I'll come back and answer that in another video. But I definitely encourage you to one, join my free group, The Lasting Love Movement. I'll put a link there, and it's a great place to start coming home to your body and gaining confidence and start loving and accepting yourself. And two, if you resonated with this whole video, come to our free masterclass tonight that Tori and I are running. It's called 3 Telltale Signs to, gosh, I don't know the exact wording, but it's 3 telltale signs to know if your relationship is unhealthy or if it's just your old trauma creating problems. If you still haven't signed up and saved your spot, it's happening in 5 hours. So comment below if you need the link and I'll happily share that with you. If you need a link to something that I've said, please let me know what it is, because I think I asked if you wanted like 1 of 5 different things. All right. I'm looking forward to seeing you tonight if you make it there. It's always nice connecting with you in real time. And until then, I hope you know that you deserve to be able to let healthy, lasting love in. Thanks. Bye.